Welcome to the Automation World Get Your Questions Answered podcast, where we connect with industry experts to get the answers you need about industrial automation technologies. And joining me to answer this question is Sam Russum with Grantech, an industrial system integrator. So getting back to the specific reader question behind this podcast is, how should a manufacturer go about assessing their operations to figure out which key metrics they should be tracking with MES software?
That is an excellent reader question. Thank you, reader, for putting in that one. We get questions like that all the time. That's really great.
No.
So my take on it is that there's really kind of three schools of thought when you come to trying to find where you're going to start that MES journey, right? It's that you find your biggest problems and complaints and you go and try to tackle those. It's that you go and that's option one. Option two is you find those low-hanging fruit to try to show that you can get something working. And three, which is a lot of kind of how I was trained a while back, was really that you start with these overall business objectives and then cascade your goals down to figure out what that MES and KPI strategy is going to be. I think that there's issues with all of these strategies in isolation, right? If you're looking for the biggest problem, you're probably also finding the most complex problem, because if you could solve it, you would have solved it already, right? So that can really lead to a very complex design and expensive and risky implementation. On the other hand, if you go to the other extreme and take that lowest hanging fruit, sure, you might be able to show something, but you might not actually get any value out of it, right? And then what's the point? And business objectives sounds like a really great starting point, and I would say it is probably the best practice. But what I've seen happen a lot of times is companies maybe without as strong of a strategic direction, or maybe don't have kind of that clear goal and business objectives laid out, it can really spiral into more of like a business management consulting activity, and you kind of get lost in what you were trying to do in the first place. So I think it's probably pretty obvious what I'm trying to get to here, which is I think that the right answer is a balance between these three, right? You want to find a problem that is really that people are complaining about and is going to provide value, but not your hardest one, right? And you're going to want to make sure that this is all aligned to some type of overall business goal that you can set a goalpost around. I want to reduce scrap by 10% or increase throughput by 4% or something like that. You should have some type of business metric that you're trying to do. And then you collect all your pain points and opportunities that could really drive that. And that's where you start to kind of build up where you might want to apply this MES technology to get started.
Okay. Now, the one thing that I'm thinking about here, and this may be one of those "it depends" kind of answers.
Favorite
because,
answer,
of course, each type of absolutely, because every MES piece of software is going to be different. But once a user has determined which metrics they want to track, how is this typically implemented in the MES software? I guess at a general, high level.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to go back a little bit to kind of how I answered the first question, which is I really kind of recommend breaking things out into three layers, kind of like a model view controller type thing, if you're used to that type of programming terminology. But it's your connectivity, your compute, and your display, right? Your connectivity piece, how I get all of these data from all of these systems, that's going to change all the time, because you probably have lots of different systems that are going to want to get you data in different ways. So that needs to be its own core, because it's going to change at a different rate and for different applications more than the other sides of things. Then you have your compute. So once you've kind of modeled all of this data, hopefully you're bringing it in a common format. Now what you do with that data can become more standard. And when it gets to visualization, then you want things to be very standard, right? The more you can reuse, the better. So I do think it kind of helps to break into those ideas. How am I going to connect to all of this equipment? How am I going to get all of that data? And then who do I send it to? And I also think that as you break things down that way, you'll kind of intentionally modularize your code to make it easier to kind of improve and change these things down the line as you do need to roll out and expand.